Everyone, thanks for tuning back into my channel. Today, we're going to talk about why your coworkers are not your friends. So, I'm just going to talk about a few key topics and we'll get right into it right now. The first is going to be competition, right? So, let's say you're all on the same team. Do you really think that they're going to want you to be promoted first over them, right? So, when it comes down to it, when you're really fighting for promotions, or if someone ends up getting promoted over someone else, I've seen this firsthand. To where they'll actually grow envious of you. There might be some backstabbing. There might be some talking behind the scenes to a boss or other people. Oh, they didn't deserve it. I should get it. Here's why I should get it, even if it makes total no sense. So you're in a competitive environment. It's not really conducive uh, for friendships, right? Now, I believe that if you do have friends at work, right, the competition is less if you're completely on different departments. So, finance and sales, HR and accounting, right? You're not really going to be in competition with each other. I'm talking more so interpersonal dynamics on the same team. So if you're on the same team, report to the same boss, I've noticed that competition is going to be a big issue. Another one is office gossip, right? People are gossipy by nature. So let's say you puke at the bars with, let's say you go out with friends, coworkers on the weekend. You went to bars and you went a little too hard, right? Happens to the best of us, and you were puking. Or let's say you cold approached a girl and it was a really bad interaction. Or let's say whatever, right? You better believe, especially if they want to, make your reputation worse or things like that, or if they have other friends and they're just gossipy, that those things will end up getting around the office and they could bite you in the butt. At the end of the day, these people, as I mentioned, they want to get promoted over you. So I've always been a big believer of keeping your work and your personal life completely separate. Me, I'm someone, obviously you could tell that I'm a straight shooter. I feel like I'm highly successful. And I feel like I'm an intelligent guy. You guys haven't seen how I look. I just like to keep that confidential, but I'm a pretty intimidating guy. I even had a director at one of my companies tell me that I think you intimidate people here. That's been an issue of mine, that my bosses have always felt, and peers of mine have felt intimidated by me. And, for that reason, unfortunately, I've learned that I do need to downplay myself in an office environment. I need to be lower than the higher ups and the seniors and the executives. I remember the COO of our company, I was walking around, I was in the bathroom, we walked by each other, and I decided I just wanted to be just so confident and give a shit who he was. So "Hey," I said, "How you doing today?" And he goes, "What?" And I realized what I did there. I was a little too confident. I was a little too alpha, right? Like I sounded almost like I was above him or on the same level as him, right? And these guys have massive egos. A lot of them are narcissistic, sociopathic, corporate psychopaths. So what the right tonality is, hey, how are you today? I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I hope you have a great day. Right. And that's basically what you need to do to survive in the corporate world. And that's not who I am. And I can't really be who I am in the corporate world. If people piss me the fuck off, I can't just say, fuck you, I'm never talking to you again, give them the middle finger and just, stonewall them and never talk to them again, delete them. Right. Especially if they're on my team or if they're my boss. Like I've got to work with these people every damn day. So that's why I want to keep my work and my personal life separate. Another reason why is, so I could have more fun and be my true self. So, let me give you an example. If I go out to the nightclubs tonight and I'm with some buddies, I want to be able to say, dude, look at that girl's fucking ass over there. God damn. What would you do with that? Ryan, what would you do with that? Damn. Or I want to be able to go cold approach a girl without repercussions. Right. Um, you can't really say things like I just mentioned around, at least I wouldn't, around coworkers, even if I trusted them and even if it was on the weekend, because those things inevitably could end up getting back around the office. Trust me, I've seen many HR disputes pop up with people, and these things do get resurfaced, right? I don't want to have to live on eggshells, live on with a filter, live with, can I really trust this person? Or, let's say I wanted to bring a girl home and bang her, and I got in the car and brought her home and whatever, they could say, "Oh, Eric's, it's a sleazy thing. Guess what he did? There was this girl and yada yada yada." And I just don't want to deal with that. I want to keep it completely separate. I was when I was in my young 20s, we were in a corporate meeting, a company wide meeting to kick off the beginning of the year in Las Vegas. So we rented out, the Win. We rented out the we went to Hakkasan nightclub, and then we rented out Encore, I think is the club. I forget which one. Not Encore Beach Club. The club in the Win. But anyways, um, I ended up getting kicked out of that club. I was 22 years old at the time. We all make mistakes. I had a little too much to drink, but it really wasn't a big deal. What went down? The bouncers, it wasn't a big deal. They were just like, "Hey, man, like you got to go, you got to go," and that I haven't been kicked out of a club in a very, very, very long time. Again, I was 22 years old, but just some of my coworkers just seeing me get escorted out, right? Even though really nothing that bad went down, my boss ended up, finding out about it. He heard from other people. They ended up spinning the truth. And I'm like, dude, that did not happen. I admit I was a little fucked up. XYZ happened, but ABC, what other people are saying, that did not happen, right? So other people had their own perceptions of reality or rumors, and my boss confronted me on it. Things were fine. But again, I want to be able to it sounds weird to say, but I'm using hyperbole here. I want to be able to get kicked out of a club, right? Again, I don't want to, but I want to be able to get kicked out of it with no repercussions, right? My friends in my personal life would be like, "Bro, you good? I always got your back, man. You good? All right, all right. Well, hey, I'll talk to you later, right?" And then I don't have to worry about it again. That's kind of a bad example, but there were other people on that trip. They got fired. One of the guys was drunk and called his coworker in front of his boss. He said that this girl on his team looks like a $20 hooker, and his boss immediately fired him on the spot. He said, "Listen, that comment, you're out of here," right? And it's not that I mean, that's a rude statement. It's a derogatory statement. But again, if he was with his friends in his personal life, that wouldn't happen. You wouldn't have lost your job, right? So, other examples I'll give is, you maybe could have one or two friends, over many, many months or years that you end up establishing trust with, that you can have in your personal life. But still, with these people, I am very a little guarded to a degree regarding what exactly everything that I'll share with them, or trust with them. You have to keep them at a little bit of an arm's length if they're a coworker of yours. you know some company cultures, and I've worked at companies that have zero culture and zero social outings, and I've worked at some where it was, other people even said, it's like a popularity contest here to get promoted. I mean, you were going to nightclubs with people, there was events, happy hours after work, and it was the kind of culture. Even my boss said, my boss and I were very close in the past, and he said that his father gave him advice to never go clubbing with the people that he manages. So I was at a nightclub once, right, with my company, and I went up to my boss, and we still talk to this day. He's one of the only bosses that I've truly gotten along with. And I told him, "Hey, man," I said, "you didn't listen to your father's advice." And he thought that was funny because I remembered, what he told me months before. He said, "Yeah," he goes, "this is a different kind of company, though." And I said, "No, I totally get it." I said, "It's a popularity contest. You have to do this shit. You have to go clubbing with everyone. You have to go to these happy hours, or you're going to have a worse personal brand." Those types of companies I hate, because I hate the politicking and the bullshitting that occurs with all of those offsite events, corporate happy hours. Like, dude, when I clock out of work, I want to be fucking done. And again, if I want social interaction or to spend time with people, I want it to be people that I choose to hang out with in my personal life. So, I think, especially and especially since I'm in sales, that it shouldn't be a popularity contest. It should be purely performance based. Those are the companies that I like, where it's purely a performance related, who's going to get promoted over someone else. You also see a lot of people's true colors when they feel like their livelihood's on the line, or their job's in jeopardy, or that you're an impediment or a risk or a threat to them getting promoted or taking their job. You see the worst in people, the corporate world. When you put money on the line, status, progression, feeding yourself or feeding your family, you get to see the dark depths of human nature. So, people stealing your credit, people spreading false rumors around the office, people being petty to you, people stonewalling you for no reason. I had this happen, a few weeks ago. I've never done anything to this guy. We had to give a presentation, and I had to brag a little bit to this new higher up. And I talked about how I was the number one performer in the whole company. And after that, he felt some type of way about me. He like I would say, all right, man, well, I'm heading home. You have a good rest of your day. And he would look at me and go, and wouldn't even really respond. And I never did anything to this guy. And so, it's because he felt insecure. He felt a little petty after that meeting, right? I triggered him, so jealousy. And also, people might mention you to HR. So for example, you never rat people out. That's like the G code, right? Well, when people go to HR and they feel like their livelihood's on the line, you won't believe how many, and even if they're not thinking they're ratting you out, you wouldn't believe how many names they'll drop. So like they might even be your friend. Like, oh yeah, what? So HR might be like, hey, what people do you think could back up what you're saying? What people may have experienced these toxic things from the boss? Oh well, Jimmy, Susie, John, Ryan, they probably have experienced it too. I know Ryan once told me X, Y, Z, and Ryan might be his good friend, right? So he doesn't think that he's going to get Ryan in trouble, but now he's looping Ryan into HR because he's in a desperate position. He's at HR. And at the end of the day, people are looking out for themselves more so than anyone else, even their friends, unfortunately. So I'm a huge believer, guys, that you should really build a life outside of work. You should build a network of people and acquaintances and deeper friendships and relationships outside of work. And you get to hand choose these people. You don't get to hand choose your coworkers, right? So you get to hand choose these people. You could be who you are. You could set better boundaries. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little paranoid in an office environment. So if someone pisses me off, you wouldn't believe how much I have that HR filter to where I'm a little afraid of like going like, dude, what the fuck did you say? Or like you can't say that. So a lot of times, like I feel like unfortunately I've been a doormat and haven't stood up for myself in certain scenarios. Whereas the real Eric, as you could probably tell in real life, I'm not really a doormat. So like tonight when I go out, for example, if someone fucks me, I'll be like, dude, what the fuck did you say? Like never say that to me again. If you do that to me one more time, I'm not talking to you again. Right. That's kind of an extreme example, but again, you can't talk to people like that at work. So it's like almost like you're living a double life. You can't really be who you are. I feel like in both environments. Luckily today, I'm gonna wrap up the video. Luckily today, I work at a company. I work remote, and this company has zero culture. I know a lot of people don't like that, right? A lot of people, oh, I like going in the office to be around people. I get lonely. No, fuck that, dude. The less you're in the office, the less uh, office politics you got to deal with. If it were up to me, I'd never go into an office again the rest of my life. Never. But, anyways, I work from home like 95% of the time. There's zero happy hours, zero events, zero culture. The office is like a library. And I love that because all I do is clock in, clock out, get my shit done, be the top performer on the team. And it's still some BS and politics in every company regarding social dynamics, favoritism, toxic leadership. But at the end of the day, a culture like this is more so inclined to be performance driven. Whoever the top performers are, those are the people that are going to get promotions, advancement, raises, and things like that. And that's how I think, the corporate world should be. And so, guys, I hope you took away a few valuable lessons within this video. Again, I would just urge you to be cautious. I'm not saying don't be friends with any of your coworkers. Just be cautious. Be careful what you say to them. If you want to do things such as night clubbing or let's face it, people do some seedy things from time to time, right? Maybe these are people you just grab a bite to eat with. Maybe they're people you just grab a drink with, and maybe you have some personal life friends where you do some you know funner activities or clubbing or if you go to a strip club. I don't even like going to strip clubs. I don't know why I say that, but I'm just trying to explain, be very careful what you information you arm your coworkers with and what you do with them. So anyways, I think you guys get the point. I'm going to wrap the video up here, and as always, I hope you guys gain some valuable insight. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.